So a lot of you may be thinking that I've been very quiet on the photography front recently, and although that's partly true because I can't go out and film all my usual landscape photography adventures and travels around Scotland, I've actually been doing a lot more photography than I normally would be. But I've not been doing landscapes, obviously. I've been delving into something a little bit different, and that is the world of macro photography. And some of you will have seen at the start of lockdown that I got out with this lens in my garden and began to photograph some of the flowers. But since then, I've been taking this out with me on most days for my daily walks, and I've been really delving into the world of macro photography and opening my eyes up to all the flowers, bugs and insects that are around my home and surrounding area, and capturing them on camera. And the results have been pretty amazing. You see, I live in the countryside, and normally I'm a little bit disheartened about this because, as you all know, I'm a coastal girl and would much rather live by the sea and embrace the nature of the waves and the coastline on a daily basis. However, living in the countryside has made me incredibly fortunate during lockdown because I have all these fields and farmland and beautiful areas to sort of go for my walks and cycles during my government-sanctioned daily exercise, which potentially this weekend might be getting increased to more than once a day, which is super exciting. But it opens up so many opportunities for macro photography, and the things I've been discovering and realising during lockdown have been so eye-opening and captivating, and I thought it would be really nice, before all the restrictions begin to be lifted and we go back to a more freer world, to actually sit down with you today and sort of share with you a selection of macro images that are my favourite that I've captured during lockdown, and talk you through how I captured them, why I captured them, and how delving into the world of macro photography has really inspired me and kept me going during these challenging times, and how potentially in the future it's going to play a really big part in my photography moving forwards. My dad said something to me on the phone the other week which I found incredibly thought-provoking. So while I've been delving into the world of macro photography with my macro lens, he's been using his zoom lens to zoom into flowers and insects that are far away, wait for insects to land on flowers, and he's been photographing them in a sort of macro photography style, but from a distance. But what he said to me was that while I go out and shoot these incredibly big, vast landscapes that are beautiful and that we have in abundance here in Scotland, he said to me these landscapes would not exist if it wasn't for the small bugs and insects and plants that make up those landscapes and that make up nature. And that is so true. So to me, actually, I'm finding that delving into macro photography is actually making my appreciation for nature and landscape photography and those big vistas even more prominent, because it's making me realise that it's these tiny things in nature that actually make these big, vast landscapes. And like I say, without them, those big, vast landscapes and nature as a whole would not exist. So from now on, I think it's going to be very clear that I'm going to be going between landscape photography and macro photography, because I'm finding zooming in on these close, tiny aspects of nature really, really inspiring. And it's going hand in hand with those big vistas and coastal scenes and landscapes that I usually enjoy photographing. So for me, lockdown has actually reignited my passion for nature. And although we've been very limited with the amount we've been able to go out, and we've only been able to go out in our local area and out and about around our house, it's actually made me pull back from the things I normally would photograph and normally love, and learn to appreciate what is on my doorstep and how these small things make up the vast country and landscape that I love to explore so much. I'm going to start off this little presentation with the flower photography that I've been doing, and I'll then lead on to the insects and bugs, which I actually have found to be incredibly captivating, and I've actually been blown away with some of the images I've managed to capture. But starting with the flowers, one thing that I have found incredible is being able to see these tiny structures within the flower that our naked eye really struggle to see, or just are unable to see full stop. Zooming right into those flowers, especially at this time of year in spring when the flowers are beginning to grow and to open up and to throw colour all over nature again. These different sections or different stages in their growth are just incredible, and then when the flower finally bursts open and you can see all the pollen and interesting structures within the centre of the flower and the interesting shapes and patterns in the petals, I've loved the colour and the vibrancy and just these interesting textures that I've managed to capture. So I'm now going to show you a slideshow of the beautiful flower images I've captured, and I hope this will open your eyes up to how incredible flowers are and the diversity of them and just the beauty of this part of nature that so many of us just walk by. So I hope you enjoyed those flower photographs, and it's been so nice to zoom into them and to see those structures and those patterns and the stages, I guess, of spring as it comes into full blossom. But I'm now going to show you the images that I've taken of insects and bugs, which in many ways I have found mind-blowing, because these tiny flies and insects that we see around us all the time, we don't actually realise the complexity of them. And some of these images I'm actually going to sit back and tell you the story of them, how I captured them and how I went about it, because photographing insects and bugs is very challenging. Obviously they are living beings, they move around, and especially things like flies and ladybirds that can fly off quite quickly and easily. It takes a lot of patience and perseverance to get these images. But the one thing that has truly captivated me is seeing their tiny eyes, these tiny eyes that we normally cannot see. And also, in terms of insects' wings, the amount of patterns, colours, shapes and textures on their bodies and wings. It's been mind-blowing to see. So let me share these images with you now and give you a sense of this, of what I've been capturing and the beauty of these images and the stories behind them.
Right at the start of lockdown, I headed to a little pond near my house and I spent an hour watching these guys swimming around in the pond and basking in the sunshine, and taking images of them opened my eyes up to a completely new world. I saw these eyes on the tadpoles that I've never seen before, these tiny little mouths, and also these dots on them as they glistened in the sunshine. And just seeing this detail within a tadpole that I'd never seen before was such a mesmerising moment, and really opened my eyes up right from the beginning to the amazing things we can see when we get a macro lens and enjoy the journey. This is probably one of my proudest macro photographs during this time. This little green insect was on my jacket and my partner put it on his finger. And macro photography can be quite difficult at times in order to focus on a subject, but somehow the combination of a bright light of the sun and my ability to focus in on this little green insect allowed for this really interesting and captivating photograph. It looks very surreal, but I can guarantee you that this image is 100% real, and again shows the beauty of macro photography and what you can find and discover when you take the time to enjoy it. Now, I have a big phobia of spiders, so this image was quite difficult for me to capture. But this beautiful spider here that I found in a local woodland just happened to be sitting comfortably on an old log. The colours and patterns in its legs, as well as the fact that it had these droplets of rain on its back, made me want to zoom in and capture it. It would have been great to have photographed it from the front and allowed it to have shown off its beautiful eyes and face, but just to be able to capture its body here with the droplets of rain on, I thought was quite a unique and interesting image, and one that I had to conquer my fears in order to capture. This image to me is beautiful. The colours especially I absolutely love, and this image was completely unexpected. It was taken the same time I was photographing the tadpoles, and this little fly had just flown into the water and had just died right before my eyes, which was a very morbid thing in many ways to witness. But photographing it on the body of water and seeing these beautiful colours and shapes within its wings against the turquoise water and the sunshine just allows for this very interesting and colourful image with beautiful textures and patterns of a little insect that the majority of us wouldn't really think twice about photographing, but just capturing it at this moment as it sailed over the water allowed it to show off these beautiful aspects of it, and this part of this fly that many of us would never even think existed. And now I'm going to show you a slideshow of the rest of my images taken of insects and bugs during this time, just so you can see the diversity and the beauty that I found around my home.
Insects and bugs are incredible, aren't they? And now that we're moving into the next stage of lockdown here in the UK and potentially being allowed out our house a little bit more to enjoy nature and do exercise, now's a great time, if any of you are interested in this, to get out with your camera, to photograph the bugs, the insects, the flowers around you, and really reconnect with nature. I think it'll be a while yet before we're allowed to go and travel around our countries again and go to our beautiful iconic locations and enjoy many of the mountains and seaside locations that we normally would. But there is so much on our doorstep that we can photograph. And if you're allowed out the house once a day or even more moving forward, get out and utilise those conditions. As I say, you don't actually need a macro lens, although it helps greatly with this. Do what my dad does, put on your telephoto lens and sit about a metre or two away from your subject, zoom right in and just wait for that bee or that bug to land on the flower. But if you do have the money or you do own a macro lens, I'd highly recommend it because it opens up your eyes to a completely new world. A new world that our eyes don't have the power to see. And it is mind-blowing. Thank you all again for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this little presentation and segment of all the images I've been taking during lockdown, and I can't wait to share some more macro adventures with you in the future, because I do think moving forward that my channel is still going to be, the majority of it's going to be landscape photography, because that's what I love, and especially when lockdown is over, I'll be getting back down to the coast and doing all those locations that I love so much. But until then, and even when that happens, I can't wait to explore the coastline and forests and other locations with this lens and see all the bugs, insects and flowers that are around there and just embrace it. And this right now is the first proper rain we've had since lockdown, and it's so exhilarating to get out there and enjoy it. And in fact, those slug images you saw a minute ago, were taken 5 minutes before I started filming this. I'm now seeing nature and insects that haven't been around for weeks because it's been so dry, coming out because it's raining. You can do macro photography in all weathers. It opens your eyes to so much. If you decide to do it, enjoy it. Thank you all again for watching. I look forward to hopefully seeing you all again next time.